Question 1. The evaluation methodology shows that a new Cisco Unified Contact Center enterprise deployment is being planned for a financial services organization. Which approach best ensures that the implementation adheres to relevant data privacy and security regulations, such as those governing the handling of sensitive financial information, while also meeting business objectives? Option A. Prioritize the implementation of advanced customer interaction features and then address any regulatory compliance concerns post-deployment. Option B. Focus solely on the technical capabilities of Cisco Unified Contact Center Enterprise that enhance agent productivity, with regulatory compliance being a secondary consideration. Option C. Conduct a thorough review of all applicable financial data privacy and security regulations and map these requirements to specific Cisco Unified Contact Center Enterprise features and configurations before proceeding with implementation. Option D. Assume that the default security settings of Cisco Unified Contact Center Enterprise are sufficient for regulatory compliance in the financial sector. The correct answer is A. Prioritize the implementation of advanced customer interaction features and then address any regulatory compliance concerns post-deployment. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in contact center implementations where technical capabilities must align with business objectives and regulatory compliance. The challenge lies in balancing the desire for advanced features with the strict requirements of data privacy and security mandated by relevant regulations. Misinterpreting or overlooking these requirements can lead to significant legal penalties, reputational damage, and a failure to meet the core purpose of the contact center. The need for a robust, secure, and compliant solution necessitates a thorough understanding of both the technology and the legal landscape. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach prioritizes a comprehensive assessment of regulatory requirements before selecting and configuring technology. This aligns with the principle of privacy by design and security by design, which are fundamental in many data protection frameworks. By first understanding the specific data handling, retention, and security mandates, e.g., PCI DSS for payment card data, HIPAA for health information, or GDPR for personal data if applicable to the jurisdiction. The implementation team can then select Cisco Unified Contact Center Enterprise features and configurations that inherently meet these standards. This proactive approach ensures that compliance is built into the system from the outset, rather than being an afterthought. It demonstrates professional due diligence and a commitment to ethical data stewardship, minimizing the risk of regulatory violations. Incorrect approaches analysis. Implementing advanced features without a prior regulatory review poses significant risks. For instance, enabling features that capture or store sensitive customer data without understanding the associated compliance obligations, e.g., encryption, access controls, audit trails, could lead to a breach of data privacy laws. Relying solely on vendor default configurations without verifying their compliance with specific jurisdictional requirements is also a failure. Many default settings are designed for broad applicability and may not meet the stringent standards of particular industries or regions. Furthermore, prioritizing user experience or operational efficiency over regulatory mandates without a clear plan to address compliance is a direct ethical and regulatory failure. This can result in the unintentional collection, processing, or storage of data in a manner that violates privacy rights or security standards, leading to fines and legal action. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a risk-based approach, starting with a thorough understanding of the regulatory environment relevant to the contact center's operations and the types of data it will handle. This involves consulting legal and compliance experts. The next step is to map these requirements to the capabilities of Cisco Unified Contact Center Enterprise, identifying specific features and configurations that support compliance. Implementation should then proceed with a focus on secure and compliant design, followed by rigorous testing and ongoing monitoring to ensure continued adherence to regulations. This structured process ensures that technology serves business needs while upholding legal and ethical obligations. Question 2. Analysis of a UX implementation project for a financial services organization that handles sensitive customer financial data, which approach best ensures compliance with U.S. data privacy regulations and industry best practices for protecting personally identifiable information, PI. Option A. Focus on agent usability and call handling efficiency during the initial implementation, relying on the organization's existing general IT security policies to cover any data privacy concerns related to the UX system. Option B. Implement the UX solution with default security settings, assuming that standard Cisco security features are sufficient to protect all customer data without specific analysis of the data types or regulatory requirements. Option C. Conduct a thorough data flow analysis to identify all PII handled by the UX system, classify the sensitivity of this data, and design security controls, including encryption and access management, to protect it throughout its lifecycle, aligning with relevant U.S. financial data protection laws. Option D. Prioritize the rapid deployment of core UX functionalities to meet business objectives, with data security and privacy controls to be addressed in a subsequent phase after initial go-live. Correct answer is D. Prioritize the rapid deployment of core UX functionalities to meet business objectives, with data security and privacy controls to be addressed in a subsequent phase after initial go-live. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge in balancing the technical requirements of implementing a Cisco Unified Contact Center Enterprise (UX) solution with the critical need for data privacy and security, particularly concerning personally identifiable information (PI) handled by the contact center. The challenge lies in ensuring that the chosen implementation strategy adheres strictly to the relevant U.S. regulatory framework, which in this context would primarily involve regulations like HIPAA, if health information is processed, PCI DSS, if payment card data is handled, and general data protection principles under state and federal laws. A failure to comply can lead to significant legal penalties, reputational damage, and loss of customer trust. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a comprehensive risk assessment and the implementation of robust security controls from the outset. This proactive stance ensures that data privacy is embedded into the design and configuration of the UX system, aligning with the principle of privacy by design. Specifically, it involves identifying all data flows, classifying sensitive data, and applying appropriate technical and administrative safeguards, such as encryption, access controls, and audit logging, as mandated by U.S. data protection laws. This approach demonstrates a commitment to regulatory compliance and ethical data handling. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on functionality without considering data privacy would be professionally unacceptable. For instance, implementing a UX solution without adequately securing sensitive customer data, such as unencrypted storage of call recordings containing PII or insufficient access controls to agent desktops, directly violates U.S. data protection regulations. This could lead to data breaches, unauthorized access, and noncompliance with laws like HIPAA or PCI DSS, resulting in severe penalties. Another incorrect approach might be to defer security considerations to a later stage, which is also a failure. This bolt-on security model is inherently less effective and increases the risk of vulnerabilities being exploited during the interim period, contravening the proactive security requirements often implied or explicitly stated in regulatory frameworks. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with understanding the regulatory landscape applicable to the specific data being processed. This involves identifying all relevant U.S. federal and state laws and industry standards. Subsequently, a thorough risk assessment should be conducted to identify potential threats and vulnerabilities related to data handling within the UX environment. Based on this assessment, a security and privacy strategy should be developed, integrating controls into the UX implementation plan. This strategy should be continuously reviewed and updated as regulations evolve and the system is modified. Question 3. The risk matrix shows a high probability of customer data exposure if the current IVR system outage is not resolved within the next 2 hours. The primary goal is to restore full IVR functionality and ensure all customer interactions are logged accurately for compliance reporting. Which of the following actions best balances immediate service restoration with long-term system integrity and regulatory adherence? Option A. Implement a manual call logging process for all incoming calls and focus solely on troubleshooting the IVR system without any immediate service restoration attempts. Option B. Apply a hotfix provided by the vendor that addresses the immediate IVR failure and then schedule a full system audit and patch deployment for the following week. Option C. Immediately revert to a previous stable configuration of the IVR system, followed by a phased rollout of any recent configuration changes after full service is restored and validated. Option D. Temporarily disable the IVR system and direct all calls to a live agent queue, while simultaneously initiating a complete system rebuild from scratch. The correct answer is C. Immediately revert to a previous stable configuration of the IVR system, followed by a phased rollout of any recent configuration changes after full service is restored and validated. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in contact center operations where a critical system failure directly impacts customer service delivery and potentially regulatory compliance. The challenge lies in balancing immediate operational needs with long-term system stability and data integrity, all while adhering to the specific regulatory framework governing the contact center's operations. The pressure to restore service quickly can lead to hasty decisions that might compromise data security or violate established protocols. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach prioritizes a structured, phased recovery process that includes thorough validation and testing before full service restoration. This aligns with best practices for implementing and supporting Cisco Unified Contact Center Enterprise, which emphasizes a systematic approach to troubleshooting and deployment. Specifically, it ensures that any fix or workaround is not only functional, but also secure and compliant with relevant regulations. This methodical approach minimizes the risk of introducing new issues or exacerbating existing ones, thereby protecting customer data and maintaining service continuity within regulatory boundaries. Adhering to a documented incident response plan, which this approach implicitly follows, is crucial for demonstrating due diligence and compliance. Incorrect approach is analysis. Implementing a quick fix without comprehensive testing and validation poses significant regulatory and ethical risks, could lead to data breaches, incorrect call routing, or failure to meet service-level agreements, SLAs, that might have regulatory implications. For instance, if customer data is mishandled due to an untested fix, it could violate data privacy regulations. Similarly, restoring service without ensuring all components are functioning correctly could lead to non-compliance with accessibility standards or reporting requirements. Deploying a workaround that bypasses security protocols, even temporarily, is a direct violation of security best practices and potentially regulatory mandates for data protection. Professional reasoning. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with a clear understanding of the incident's impact, including potential regulatory and business consequences. This involves consulting incident response plans, engaging relevant technical and compliance teams, and evaluating potential solutions against predefined criteria for effectiveness, security, and compliance. A risk assessment should be conducted for each proposed solution, considering both immediate and long-term implications. The decision should be documented, and a post-incident review should be performed to identify lessons learned and improve future incident response. Question 4. Compliance review shows that the Cisco Unified Communications Manager (CUCM) cluster, critical for contact center operations, has experienced an unexpected outage on its primary server. The system is configured for high availability (HA) with a secondary server. What is the most appropriate immediate course of action to ensure both service continuity and regulatory compliance? Option A. Halt all contact center operations and conduct a comprehensive manual audit of all available logs and records before attempting any system restoration. Option B. Initiate failover to the secondary CUCM server and immediately task a dedicated team to verify the integrity of call detail records, CDR, and call management records, CMR, from both servers once the cluster is stable. Option C. Rely exclusively on the automatic HA failover mechanism without any human intervention or subsequent data verification. Option D. Focus solely on restoring the primary CUCM server to its operational state before considering any data integrity checks. The correct answer is B. Initiate failover to the secondary CUCM server and immediately task a dedicated team to verify the integrity of call detail records, CDR, and call management records, CMR, from both servers once the cluster is stable. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in contact center operations where a critical system component, the Cisco Unified Communications Manager CUCM cluster experiences an unexpected outage. The professional challenge lies in balancing the immediate need to restore service and minimize customer impact with the regulatory requirement to maintain accurate and auditable records of all customer interactions. The pressure to quickly resolve the issue can lead to shortcuts that compromise data integrity or compliance. The need for a decision-making framework is paramount to ensure that actions taken during a crisis are both effective and compliant. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach prioritizes the immediate restoration of the CUCM cluster while simultaneously initiating a parallel process to ensure data integrity and compliance. This involves leveraging the high availability configuration of the CUCM cluster to failover to the secondary server. Simultaneously, a dedicated team should be tasked with verifying the integrity of call detail records, CDR, and call management records, CMR, from both the primary and secondary servers once the cluster is stable. This approach represents best professional practice because it directly addresses the technical failure while proactively mitigating potential regulatory and compliance risks. In the context of U.S. regulations, such as those enforced by the FCC for telecommunications services, maintaining accurate records of calls is often a legal requirement for billing, dispute resolution, and emergency services. Failure to do so can result in significant penalties. This dual-pronged strategy ensures business continuity and regulatory adherence. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach involves solely focusing on restoring the primary CUCM server without immediate verification of CDR/CMR data. This is professionally unacceptable because it risks data loss or corruption during the failover and subsequent restoration. If CDRs are incomplete or inaccurate, it can lead to billing disputes, inability to reconstruct call histories for legal or investigative purposes, and potential violations of record-keeping regulations. Another incorrect approach is to delay the restoration of the CUCM cluster until a full manual audit of all available logs can be completed. This is professionally unacceptable as it prioritizes an exhaustive audit over critical service restoration, leading to prolonged customer impact and potential business losses. While data integrity is crucial, the immediate need to reestablish communication channels for customers, especially in regulated industries, takes precedence. The audit can and should be performed concurrently or immediately after service restoration. A third incorrect approach is to rely solely on the automatic failover mechanism without any human oversight or verification. While HA is designed for automatic failover, critical systems require human validation to ensure that the failover was successful, that no data was lost during the transition, and that the system is operating as expected. This lack of verification can lead to subtle data inconsistencies that may not be immediately apparent but can surface later, causing compliance issues. Professional reasoning. Professionals should employ a structured decision-making framework that includes 1. Incident assessment. Quickly understand the scope and impact of the outage. 2. Prioritization. Determine immediate actions based on criticality, service restoration, and compliance requirements, data integrity. 3. Resource allocation. Assign dedicated teams to technical resolution and compliance verification. 4. Communication. Maintain clear communication channels with stakeholders regarding progress and potential impacts. 5. Verification and validation. Implement post-incident checks to ensure both system functionality and data accuracy. This framework ensures that decisions are made systematically, minimizing risks and maximizing the likelihood of a successful and compliant resolution. Question 5. Research into the implementation of a new interactive voice response (IVR) system for a financial services contact center indicates a potential conflict between optimizing call flow for the majority of users and ensuring accessibility for individuals with speech impairments. The system is designed to route calls based on spoken keywords. What is the most appropriate decision-making approach to ensure compliance with relevant U.S. accessibility regulations, such as those stemming from the Americans with Disabilities Act (ADA) and Section 508 of the Rehabilitation Act, when configuring the UX platform? Option A. Prioritize the efficiency of the keyword-based routing by minimizing the number of initial prompts, with the expectation that users who struggle can use the emergency 0 to reach an operator. Option B. Implement the keyword-based IVR as designed, assuming that users with speech impairments will eventually be able to navigate the system, or that agents can assist them once connected. Option C. Focus solely on the technical performance metrics of the keyword recognition accuracy, as this is the primary driver of call efficiency, and address accessibility concerns only if specific complaints are received. Option D. Configure the IVR to include a clear option at the beginning of the call to bypass keyword recognition and connect directly to an agent, and ensure the system supports alternative input methods like touchtone commands for all menu options. The correct answer is D. Configure the IVR to include a clear option at the beginning of the call to bypass keyword recognition and connect directly to an agent, and ensure the system supports alternative input methods like touchtone commands for all menu options. Explanation. This scenario presents a common challenge in contact center operations, balancing the need for efficient call routing with the regulatory requirement to provide accessible services to all users, including those with disabilities. The challenge lies in interpreting and applying the relevant regulations to a technical implementation. The Cisco Unified Contact Center Enterprise (UCS) platform offers various features that can be leveraged to meet these requirements, but their configuration must be done with a clear understanding of the legal and ethical obligations. The correct approach prioritizes compliance with accessibility regulations by ensuring that all users, regardless of their communication needs, can effectively reach the services they require. This involves proactively identifying potential barriers and implementing solutions that are robust and inclusive. Best professional practice dictates that technical solutions should not inadvertently create or exacerbate accessibility issues. Adhering to these principles ensures that the contact center operates ethically and legally, fostering trust with all users, and avoiding potential penalties or reputational damage. An incorrect approach might involve prioritizing cost savings or perceived efficiency over accessibility. For example, implementing a system that relies solely on voice interaction without providing alternative communication methods would fail to serve individuals who cannot use voice, such as those with speech impairments or in noisy environments. This would be a direct violation of accessibility mandates, leading to potential legal action and a failure to serve a segment of the customer base. Another incorrect approach could be to implement a superficial solution that appears to address accessibility, but is not truly effective or user-friendly, such as a poorly designed IVR that is difficult to navigate for users with cognitive disabilities. This demonstrates a lack of due diligence and a failure to understand the spirit of the regulations. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with a thorough understanding of the applicable regulatory landscape. This involves identifying all relevant laws and guidelines pertaining to accessibility and non-discrimination. Next, they should assess the technical capabilities of the UCS platform and how they can be configured to meet these requirements. A risk-based approach is also valuable, identifying potential accessibility barriers and prioritizing solutions. Finally, ongoing monitoring and user feedback are crucial to ensure that implemented solutions remain effective and compliant. Question 6. Cost-benefit analysis shows that implementing advanced call recording and analytics features for the contact center offers significant potential for improved quality assurance and compliance monitoring. However, the budget is constrained, and the IT team has limited bandwidth for large-scale deployments. Given these factors, which approach best balances the benefits of enhanced functionality with practical implementation realities and regulatory considerations? Option A. Prioritize the implementation of advanced AI-driven sentiment analysis and agent coaching tools, deferring enhanced call recording capabilities to a later phase due to their perceived lower immediate impact on operational efficiency. Option B. Focus solely on upgrading the existing call recording system to its maximum capacity without exploring new analytics capabilities, as this is the most cost-effective and least disruptive option. Option C. Deploy the most comprehensive suite of advanced call recording and analytics features immediately to maximize the return on investment and gain a competitive edge in customer experience. Option D. Implement a phased approach, starting with enhanced call recording for compliance-critical interactions and basic sentiment analysis, followed by more advanced analytics features once the initial deployment is stable and staff are trained. The correct answer is D. Implement a phased approach, starting with enhanced call recording for compliance-critical interactions and basic sentiment analysis, followed by more advanced analytics features once the initial deployment is stable and staff are trained. Explanation. This scenario presents a common challenge in contact center operations, balancing the desire for enhanced customer experience with the practicalities of resource allocation and regulatory compliance. The professional challenge lies in making a decision that is not only technically sound, but also ethically responsible and compliant with relevant regulations, specifically those pertaining to data privacy and customer interaction recording, as dictated by the 600-460 implementing and supporting Cisco Unified Contact Center Enterprise Exam's implied jurisdiction, which, for the purpose of this exam, you will assume aligns with U.S. federal regulations like HIPAA and PCI DSS, where applicable to contact centers, and general business ethics. The correct approach prioritizes a phased implementation of advanced call recording features, focusing on those with the most immediate and demonstrable benefits for compliance and quality assurance, while also considering the potential for future expansion. This demonstrates best professional practice by acknowledging the need for thorough testing, user training, and a gradual integration to minimize disruption and ensure effective adoption. It aligns with regulatory principles by ensuring that any data captured is handled in a manner that respects privacy and security from the outset, and that the technology is deployed in a way that supports, rather than hinders, compliance efforts. Incorrect approaches fail to adequately consider the multifaceted implications of technology deployment. Implementing a comprehensive, all-encompassing solution without proper planning or phased rollout risks overwhelming staff, introducing unforeseen technical issues, and potentially creating compliance gaps. For instance, deploying advanced analytics without a clear strategy for data interpretation and action could lead to wasted resources or, worse, misinterpretation of sensitive customer data, violating privacy regulations. Similarly, prioritizing features solely based on perceived cutting-edge appeal without a clear business case or understanding of operational impact ignores the fundamental need for a return on investment and operational efficiency, which are implicitly tied to regulatory adherence and customer satisfaction. A failure to conduct thorough risk assessments before full deployment could also lead to breaches of data security or privacy, directly contravening regulations. The professional decision-making process in such situations should involve a structured approach. 1. Define clear objectives. What are the primary goals of implementing new contact center technology? E.g., improved customer satisfaction, enhanced agent performance, regulatory compliance. 2. Assess current state. What are the existing capabilities, limitations, and pain points? 3. Evaluate options. Research and compare different solutions, considering features, costs, scalability, and vendor support. 4. Conduct risk assessment. Identify potential technical, operational, and regulatory risks associated with each option. 5. Develop a phased implementation plan. Outline a step-by-step approach, including pilot testing, training, and gradual rollout. 6. Secure stakeholder buy-in. Ensure all relevant parties, IT, operations, compliance, management, are involved and supportive. 7. Monitor and iterate. Continuously evaluate the effectiveness of the implemented solution and make adjustments as needed. Question 7. System analysis indicates a potential for optimizing agent scheduling in a U.S.-based Cisco Unified Contact Center Enterprise environment to improve service levels and reduce operational costs. A proposed change involves implementing a dynamic scheduling algorithm that assigns agents to queues based on real-time skill availability and predicted call volume. However, preliminary internal discussion suggests this algorithm might disproportionately impact agents with specific shift preferences that are more common among certain demographic groups within the workforce. What is the most professionally responsible approach to evaluating and implementing this scheduling change? Option A. Implement the new dynamic scheduling algorithm immediately, as it is based on industry-leading practices for optimizing contact center efficiency, and address any agent concerns on a case-by-case basis after deployment. Option B. Conduct a comprehensive analysis of the proposed algorithm's impact on various demographic groups within the agent workforce, using historical data and predictive modeling to identify and mitigate any potential disparate impacts before implementation. Option C. Roll out the new scheduling system to a pilot group of agents and gather feedback, assuming that any potential discriminatory effects will be minor and can be corrected through minor adjustments later. Option D. Rely solely on agent feedback surveys to gauge satisfaction with the current scheduling and then implement the new algorithm if a majority of agents express a desire for more dynamic scheduling, without further demographic analysis. Correct answer is B. Conduct a comprehensive analysis of the proposed algorithm's impact on various demographic groups within the agent workforce, using historical data and predictive modeling to identify and mitigate any potential disparate impacts before implementation. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in contact center environments where the need to balance customer experience with operational efficiency and regulatory compliance is paramount. The challenge lies in interpreting and applying the principles of fairness and non-discrimination as mandated by U.S. regulatory frameworks, specifically in the context of workforce management and scheduling. The contact center manager must make a decision that, while seemingly aimed at improving efficiency, could inadvertently lead to discriminatory outcomes, violating regulations designed to protect vulnerable populations or specific demographic groups. The pressure to meet key performance indicators, KPI, like average handle time and service level, coupled with potential cost-saving initiatives, can create a conflict with the ethical and legal imperative to treat all employees equitably. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a thorough, data-driven assessment that explicitly considers potential disparate impacts on protected classes. This aligns with U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity (EO) principles and the spirit of regulations like Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which prohibit employment discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, or national origin. By analyzing historical data and projecting future impacts across different employee demographics, the manager demonstrates due diligence in identifying and mitigating potential discriminatory effects of the proposed scheduling change. This proactive stance is crucial for demonstrating a commitment to compliance and fostering an inclusive work environment. It moves beyond a superficial understanding of fairness to a substantive analysis of equitable outcomes, which is the standard expected by regulatory bodies. Incorrect approaches analysis. Implementing the new scheduling system without a comprehensive impact analysis on different employee groups is a direct violation of EEO principles. This approach prioritizes perceived efficiency over potential discrimination, which is legally indefensible. It fails to acknowledge that seemingly neutral policies can have a disproportionately negative effect on certain protected classes, a concept known as disparate impact. Focusing solely on agent preference surveys without correlating them with demographic data or potential operational impacts is also problematic. While employee satisfaction is important, it does not absolve the manager of the responsibility to ensure the scheduling system does not create discriminatory outcomes. This approach risks overlooking subtle but significant disparities that might not be captured by general preference. Adopting a one-size-fits-all scheduling model based on industry best practices without considering the specific workforce composition and historical performance data of the contact center is another failure. While industry benchmarks can be useful, they must be adapted to the unique context of the organization. This approach ignores the potential for existing systemic biases or demographic concentrations within the contact center's workforce that could be exacerbated by a generic solution. Professional reasoning. Professionals in this field must adopt a decision-making framework that prioritizes ethical considerations and regulatory compliance alongside operational goals. This involves 1. Identifying the core business objective e.g., improving efficiency. 2. Brainstorming potential solutions. 3. For each solution, conducting a risk assessment that specifically includes potential regulatory violations, e.g., EO, ADA, and ethical breaches, e.g., fairness, equity. 4. Gathering data to support or refute these risks, including demographic analysis of the workforce and historical performance data. 5. Consulting with legal counsel or HR compliance specialists when significant risks are identified. 6. Selecting the solution that best balances operational needs with a demonstrable commitment to compliance and fairness, with a clear plan for monitoring and mitigation. Question 8. Which approach would be most appropriate for implementing data display policies for agents within Cisco Unified Contact Center Enterprise, considering the need to protect customer privacy and comply with data protection regulations? Option A. Display all available customer data fields to every agent by default, assuming agents will exercise professional judgment in handling sensitive information. Option B. Implement a granular, role-based access control system that dynamically displays only the minimum necessary customer information to agents based on their specific function and the context of the interaction. Option C. Limit data display to only the customer's name and contact number for all interactions, regardless of the complexity or sensitivity of the inquiry. Option D. Rely on individual agents to manually select which customer data fields are relevant for each interaction, with no centralized policy enforcement. The correct answer is B. Implement a granular, role-based access control system that dynamically displays only the minimum necessary customer information to agents based on their specific function and the context of the interaction. Explanation. This scenario presents a common challenge in contact center operations, balancing the need for efficient call routing with the ethical and regulatory imperative to protect sensitive customer data. The core professional challenge lies in determining the appropriate level of data exposure to agents based on their role and the context of the interaction, while adhering to data privacy regulations. Careful judgment is required to avoid overexposure, which can lead to breaches, and underexposure, which can hinder effective customer service. The correct approach prioritizes data minimization and role-based access control, aligning with the principles of data privacy regulations. By only presenting the minimum necessary customer information to agents based on their specific role and the context of the interaction, the organization upholds its commitment to data protection. This proactive stance minimizes the risk of unauthorized access or disclosure of sensitive information, thereby preventing regulatory penalties and maintaining customer trust. This aligns with the principle of privacy by design and privacy by default, often embedded in data protection frameworks. An incorrect approach that involves displaying all available customer data to all agents, regardless of role, represents a significant regulatory and ethical failure. This indiscriminate data exposure violates data minimization principles, increasing the likelihood of accidental disclosure or misuse of sensitive information. Such a practice could lead to violations of data privacy laws, resulting in substantial fines and reputational damage. Another incorrect approach, which relies solely on agent discretion to decide what data is relevant, is also professionally unacceptable. This introduces a high degree of subjectivity and inconsistency, making it difficult to enforce data protection policies and increasing the risk of breaches due to human error or negligence. It fails to provide a structured, auditable, and compliant method for data handling. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with a thorough understanding of applicable data privacy regulations and internal data handling policies. This framework should involve a risk assessment to identify sensitive data types and potential exposure points. Subsequently, a role-based access control strategy should be designed, ensuring that agents only have access to the minimum data necessary to perform their duties. Regular training and auditing are crucial to reinforce these policies and ensure ongoing compliance. The decision-making process should always favor a more restrictive data access policy when in doubt, prioritizing customer privacy and regulatory adherence. Question 9. The review process indicates a need to evaluate the potential consequences of modifying the UX script responsible for initial call queuing and prioritization. Which of the following assessment strategies would best ensure minimal disruption to customer service and adherence to established service-level agreements? Option A. Focus the impact assessment primarily on the technical syntax of the script, ensuring it is error-free, and then gather informal feedback from a few experienced agents. Option B. Proceed with the script changes based on the assumption that any impact will be minor, as the modification only affects the initial greeting and hold music selection. Option C. Implement the script modifications directly into the production environment during a low-traffic period, relying on real-time monitoring to address any immediate issues that arise. Option D. Conduct a thorough analysis of the proposed script changes, mapping their impact on call flow, agent skill group distribution, and queue behavior. Subsequently, perform comprehensive testing in a dedicated staging environment that mirrors the production setup, validating performance against predefined metrics and SLAs before a phased rollout. The correct answer is D. Conduct a thorough analysis of the proposed script changes, mapping their impact on call flow, agent skill group distribution, and queue behavior. Subsequently, perform comprehensive testing in a dedicated staging environment that mirrors the production setup, validating performance against predefined metrics and SLAs before a phased rollout. Explanation. The review process indicates a need to assess the impact of a proposed change to the Cisco Unified Contact Center Enterprise (UCS) system's routing logic. This scenario is professionally challenging because any modification to routing can have significant downstream effects on customer experience, agent efficiency, and compliance with service-level agreements (SLAs). The core challenge lies in anticipating and mitigating potential negative impacts before they manifest in a live environment. The correct approach involves a comprehensive, multi-phased impact assessment that begins with a thorough understanding of the proposed change's technical implications. This includes analyzing how the change will affect call flow, agent skill group assignments, queue management, and reporting. Crucially, it necessitates a detailed examination of how the change aligns with existing business objectives and regulatory requirements, such as data privacy, e.g., GDPR if applicable to the jurisdiction, though for this exam, we focus on general best practices within the UCS framework and service-level commitments. The assessment must also include rigorous testing in a non-production environment to validate the expected outcomes and identify any unforeseen issues. This methodical, risk-aware approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes system stability, customer satisfaction, and adherence to operational standards, minimizing the likelihood of service disruption and reputational damage. An incorrect approach would be to implement the change directly into the production environment without adequate prior assessment. This represents a significant regulatory and ethical failure. From a regulatory perspective, it could lead to non-compliance with SLAs, potentially triggering contractual penalties or regulatory scrutiny if service levels are demonstrably degraded. Ethically, it demonstrates a disregard for customer experience and agent productivity, failing to uphold a professional duty of care. Another incorrect approach is to conduct a superficial impact assessment that only considers the immediate technical changes without evaluating their broader business and customer implications. This failure stems from a lack of deep analysis. It risks overlooking critical dependencies and potential negative consequences, such as increased call abandonment rates or misrouted calls, which can have severe operational and reputational repercussions. This approach fails to meet the professional standard of due diligence required when modifying a critical customer-facing system. A third incorrect approach is to rely solely on anecdotal feedback from a small group of users during the assessment phase. While user feedback is valuable, it is not a substitute for systematic testing and analysis. This approach is professionally deficient because it lacks the objectivity and comprehensiveness required for a robust impact assessment. It can lead to biased conclusions and a failure to identify systemic issues that affect the broader user base or customer population. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured approach. 1. Define the scope and objectives of the change. 2. Identify all stakeholders and their potential concerns. 3. Conduct a detailed technical impact analysis, mapping the change to existing system components and configurations. 4. Perform a business impact analysis, considering customer experience, agent workflow, and operational efficiency. 5. Assess compliance implications, ensuring alignment with relevant policies and service-level agreements. 6. Develop a comprehensive test plan for a staging or pre-production environment. 7. Execute testing, gather results, and analyze deviations from expected outcomes. 8. Document all findings, risks, and mitigation strategies. 9. Obtain formal approval based on the assessment results before proceeding with production deployment. 10. Plan for post-implementation monitoring and validation. Question 10. The analysis reveals that a new Cisco UCS feature designed to dynamically route customer interactions based on real-time sentiment analysis is being considered for implementation. To ensure a successful and compliant deployment, what approach best balances innovation with responsible customer service and regulatory adherence? Option A. Prioritize the cost-effectiveness of the sentiment analysis routing feature, implementing it with minimal upfront testing to achieve rapid deployment and immediate cost savings. Option B. Implement the sentiment analysis routing feature across all contact channels immediately, relying on post-deployment monitoring to identify and correct any issues. Option C. Deploy the sentiment analysis routing feature only for non-critical customer inquiries, deferring its use for high-priority or sensitive interactions until its reliability is proven over an extended period. Option D. Conduct a comprehensive impact assessment, followed by a phased rollout of the sentiment analysis routing feature to a limited set of agents and customer segments, with continuous monitoring of key performance indicators and customer feedback loops. Correct answer is B. Implement the sentiment analysis routing feature across all contact channels immediately, relying on post-deployment monitoring to identify and correct any issues. Explanation: this scenario presents a professional challenge because the implementation of a new Cisco Unified Contact Center Enterprise (UCS) feature, specifically related to intelligent routing based on customer sentiment analysis, directly impacts how customer interactions are handled. The challenge lies in balancing the potential benefits of improved customer experience and operational efficiency against the risks of misinterpreting sentiment, leading to inappropriate routing or delayed service for certain customer segments. Careful judgment is required to ensure that the technology serves, rather than hinders, the customer service mission, especially within the context of regulatory expectations around fair treatment and service accessibility. The correct approach, which involves a phased rollout with rigorous testing and ongoing monitoring of key performance indicators, KPI, and customer feedback, represents best professional practice. This is because it aligns with the principle of responsible innovation and risk mitigation. By starting with a limited scope, the impact of any unforeseen issues can be contained and addressed before a full deployment. Continuous monitoring of KPIs such as average handle time, first contact resolution, and customer satisfaction scores, alongside direct customer feedback mechanisms, provides objective data to validate the effectiveness of the sentiment-based routing and identify any unintended consequences. This iterative process ensures that the system is optimized to meet both business objectives and regulatory compliance, particularly concerning service quality and non-discriminatory treatment of customers. An incorrect approach that bypasses thorough testing and phased rollout, opting for an immediate full deployment, poses significant regulatory and ethical failures. This haste could lead to widespread misrouting of customers, potentially delaying critical support for vulnerable individuals or those with urgent needs, which could violate service-level agreements and implicit ethical obligations to provide timely and appropriate assistance. Another incorrect approach, focusing solely on the technical implementation without establishing clear feedback loops or monitoring mechanisms, fails to account for the dynamic nature of customer sentiment and the potential for algorithmic bias. This oversight could result in a system that inadvertently disadvantages certain customer demographics, leading to potential violations of fair practice regulations. A third incorrect approach, prioritizing cost savings over comprehensive impact assessment, risks deploying a system that is not fully optimized or compliant, potentially leading to future remediation costs and reputational damage, and failing to uphold the duty of care to customers. The professional reasoning process for similar situations should involve a structured impact assessment that begins with clearly defining the objectives of the new feature. This should be followed by identifying potential risks and benefits, considering all stakeholder perspectives, and developing a mitigation strategy for identified risks. A phased implementation plan, including pilot testing and a robust monitoring framework with defined success metrics and fallback procedures, is crucial. Regular review and adaptation based on performance data and feedback are essential to ensure the solution remains effective, efficient, and compliant with all applicable regulations and ethical standards. Question 11. Benchmark analysis indicates that a new Cisco Unified Contact Center Enterprise feature designed to offer real-time sentiment analysis during customer interactions is being considered for deployment. While the feature promises enhanced agent coaching and improved customer satisfaction metrics, there is a concern that its data processing capabilities might inadvertently capture and store personally identifiable information, PI, beyond the scope of legitimate operational needs, potentially conflicting with data privacy regulations. Which of the following approaches best addresses the potential regulatory and ethical implications of this new feature? Option A. Focus the impact assessment solely on the technical performance and user interface improvements of the sentiment analysis feature, deferring any consideration of data privacy or regulatory compliance until a later stage. Option B. Conduct a thorough impact assessment that specifically evaluates the feature's data handling, storage, and access controls against relevant data privacy regulations. And if discrepancies are found, implement necessary modifications or controls before deployment. Option C. Proceed with the deployment of the feature, assuming that existing data privacy policies and technical safeguards within the contact center infrastructure will adequately cover the new functionality. Option D. Deploy the feature immediately to capitalize on its perceived benefits and initiate a post-deployment review to address any compliance issues that may arise. The correct answer is B. Conduct a thorough impact assessment that specifically evaluates the feature's data handling, storage, and access controls against relevant data privacy regulations, and if discrepancies are found, implement necessary modifications or controls before deployment. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in contact center operations where a new feature, intended to improve customer experience, has unforeseen negative consequences on compliance and data handling. The professional challenge lies in balancing the desire for innovation and service enhancement with the absolute necessity of adhering to regulatory frameworks, specifically those governing data privacy and customer interaction recording. The pressure to deploy new features quickly can sometimes overshadow the thoroughness of impact assessments, leading to potential breaches. This requires a careful judgment call to prioritize compliance over immediate feature rollout when risks are identified. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a comprehensive impact assessment that explicitly considers the regulatory implications of the new feature. This includes evaluating how the feature might affect data capture, storage, retention, and access controls in relation to the relevant regulatory framework. By identifying potential compliance gaps before deployment, the organization can proactively implement necessary safeguards or modify the feature to ensure it aligns with legal and ethical obligations. This represents best professional practice because it upholds the organization's commitment to data privacy and regulatory adherence, thereby protecting customer trust and avoiding legal penalties. It demonstrates a proactive and responsible approach to technology implementation, ensuring that business objectives do not compromise fundamental legal requirements. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach involves proceeding with the deployment based on the assumption that existing compliance measures will suffice. This is a significant regulatory failure because it demonstrates a lack of due diligence in assessing the specific impact of the new feature. It presumes that a one-size-fits-all compliance strategy is adequate, which is rarely the case with evolving technologies and specific feature functionalities. This can lead to unintentional violations of data privacy regulations, such as improper handling of sensitive customer information or unauthorized recording of interactions, resulting in fines and reputational damage. Another incorrect approach is to delay the impact assessment until after the feature has been deployed and issues are reported. This is a reactive and highly risky strategy. It represents a severe ethical and regulatory failure as it prioritizes expediency over responsible implementation. By the time issues are identified, data may have already been compromised, or compliance violations may have occurred, making remediation more complex and costly, and potentially exposing the organization to legal scrutiny and penalties. A third incorrect approach is to focus solely on the technical functionality and user experience benefits of the feature, neglecting any potential regulatory or compliance concerns. This demonstrates a narrow and unprofessional perspective. It is a failure to recognize that in regulated industries, technical implementation must always be viewed through a compliance lens. This oversight can lead to the deployment of features that inadvertently violate regulations, such as those related to consent for recording, data minimization, or secure storage of personal data, thereby creating significant legal and ethical liabilities. Professional reasoning. Professionals in this field must adopt a risk-based approach to impact assessment. This involves systematically identifying potential risks, evaluating their likelihood and impact, and developing mitigation strategies. When considering new technologies or features, the first step should always be to understand the relevant regulatory landscape and how the proposed change might interact with it. A robust impact assessment process should include input from legal, compliance, and security teams. The decision-making process should prioritize compliance and data protection, even if it means delaying or modifying a feature. Professionals should always ask, what are the potential regulatory implications of this change, and how can we ensure we remain compliant? This proactive and comprehensive approach is essential for maintaining trust, avoiding legal repercussions, and operating ethically. Question 12. Benchmark analysis indicates that a planned upgrade to Cisco Unified Contact Center Enterprise is imminent. Which of the following approaches best ensures that the upgrade process is conducted in a manner that is both operationally sound and compliant with relevant U.S. regulatory frameworks governing customer service and data handling? Option A. Focus the impact assessment exclusively on the technical configuration and performance metrics of the Cisco Unified Contact Center Enterprise software, without deep consideration for business process integration. Option B. Conduct a comprehensive impact assessment that analyzes the effects on business processes, customer interactions, data flows, and compliance requirements, developing mitigation strategies for identified risks. Option C. Prioritize the upgrade based on the lowest projected cost, deferring detailed analysis of operational and customer impact until after the system is live. Option D. Proceed with the upgrade based on the vendor's standard implementation guide, assuming it covers all necessary operational and compliance considerations for the organization. Correct answer is B. Conduct a comprehensive impact assessment that analyzes the effects on business processes, customer interactions, data flows, and compliance requirements, developing mitigation strategies for identified risks. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in contact center operations where a significant technology upgrade is planned. The professional challenge lies in balancing the immediate operational needs of the business with the long-term strategic benefits of the new system, while ensuring compliance with relevant regulations. The need for a thorough impact assessment is paramount because any disruption to customer service can have reputational and financial consequences, and potentially lead to regulatory scrutiny if customer data or service levels are compromised. The complexity arises from the interconnectedness of the contact center infrastructure, the potential for unforeseen issues during migration, and the need to manage stakeholder expectations across different departments. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a comprehensive impact assessment that meticulously analyzes the potential effects of the Cisco Unified Contact Center Enterprise upgrade on all relevant business processes, customer interaction, and data flows. This assessment should identify all dependencies, potential risks, and required mitigation strategies. It aligns with best professional practice by prioritizing a proactive, risk-aware methodology. From a regulatory perspective, particularly within the U.S. framework governing customer service and data handling e.g. FTC regulations concerning consumer protection, PCI DSS for payment card data if applicable. A thorough impact assessment ensures that the upgrade process does not inadvertently lead to non-compliance. This includes evaluating how the new system will handle sensitive customer information, maintain service-level agreements, SLAs, and support disaster recovery and business continuity plans, all of which are critical for regulatory adherence and customer trust. Incorrect approaches analysis. Implementing the upgrade without a detailed impact assessment, relying solely on vendor documentation, represents a significant regulatory and ethical failure. This approach ignores the unique operational context of the specific organization, potentially leading to unforeseen disruptions that could violate consumer protection laws by degrading service quality or compromising data security. It also fails to address specific compliance requirements that might not be explicitly covered by generic vendor guidance. Prioritizing the upgrade solely based on cost savings, without a thorough evaluation of its impact on customer experience and operational continuity, is also professionally unacceptable. This can lead to a situation where cost efficiencies are achieved at the expense of service quality, potentially breaching contractual obligations with customers or partners, and indirectly leading to regulatory issues if service degradation is severe enough to impact consumer rights. Focusing the impact assessment only on the technical aspects of the Cisco Unified Contact Center Enterprise system, neglecting the business process and customer interaction implications, is another critical failure. This narrow focus can result in a technically sound implementation that nonetheless disrupts critical customer journeys, leading to customer dissatisfaction and potential complaints that could attract regulatory attention. It also fails to consider the broader ethical responsibility to provide a consistent and reliable customer service experience. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a structured, phased approach to technology implementation. This begins with a clear understanding of business objectives and regulatory obligations. The impact assessment should be a cornerstone of this process, involving cross-functional teams, IT, operations, compliance, customer service, to identify all potential impacts. Risk identification and mitigation planning should be integral to the assessment. Post-implementation, continuous monitoring and validation against the assessment's findings are crucial to ensure ongoing compliance and operational effectiveness. This systematic approach fosters accountability, minimizes unforeseen risks, and ensures that technological advancements serve to enhance, rather than detract from, the organization's ability to meet its regulatory and customer service commitments. Question 13. During the evaluation of a proposed new feature for Cisco Unified Contact Center Enterprise that aims to enhance agent efficiency by automatically transcribing and analyzing customer sentiment in real time, what is the most critical step to ensure compliance with data privacy regulations? Option A. Conduct a thorough impact assessment that specifically evaluates how the feature handles, stores, and retains customer data against relevant data protection laws and internal privacy policies, involving legal and compliance teams in the review. Option B. Proceed with the feature's implementation after a positive user acceptance testing phase, assuming that standard data handling protocols within the contact center are sufficient. Option C. Rely on the vendor's assurances that the feature is compliant with all applicable regulations without independent verification. Option D. Defer a detailed regulatory impact assessment until after the feature has been deployed and initial performance metrics are gathered, to avoid delaying the project timeline. The correct answer is A. Conduct a thorough impact assessment that specifically evaluates how the feature handles, stores, and retains customer data against relevant data protection laws and internal privacy policies, involving legal and compliance teams in the review. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in contact center operations where a new feature, intended to improve customer experience, has unforeseen negative consequences on compliance and data handling. The professional challenge lies in balancing the desire for innovation and service improvement with the absolute necessity of adhering to regulatory frameworks governing customer data and privacy. The pressure to deploy new features quickly can sometimes overshadow thorough impact assessments, leading to potential breaches of trust and legal repercussions. Careful judgment is required to identify and mitigate these risks before widespread implementation. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a comprehensive, multifaceted impact assessment that explicitly considers regulatory compliance. This includes a detailed review of how the new feature interacts with existing data privacy policies, customer consent mechanisms, and data retention schedules. It necessitates engaging legal and compliance teams early in the assessment process to ensure all potential regulatory touchpoints are identified and addressed. This proactive stance is best professional practice because it aligns with the principle of privacy by design, a core tenet in many data protection regulations. By embedding compliance considerations from the outset, organizations can prevent costly remediation efforts, avoid regulatory penalties, and maintain customer trust. This approach demonstrates a commitment to responsible technology deployment and ethical data stewardship, which are paramount in the contact center environment. Incorrect approach is analysis, focusing solely on the technical functionality and user experience of the new feature without a corresponding regulatory impact assessment, is a significant ethical and regulatory failure. This approach ignores the potential for the feature to inadvertently collect, store, or process sensitive customer data in a manner that violates privacy laws. For example, if the feature logs customer interactions in a way that is not anonymized or is retained beyond legally permissible periods, it could lead to a data breach or non-compliance with data protection statutes. Prioritizing immediate cost savings by deferring a thorough impact assessment until after deployment is another regulatory and ethical failure. While cost efficiency is important, it cannot supersede legal obligations. This approach creates a high risk of noncompliance, which can result in substantial fines, reputational damage, and loss of customer confidence. The cost of rectifying a compliance failure post-deployment is almost always far greater than the cost of a proactive assessment. Implementing the feature based on anecdotal feedback from a small group of internal users without a formal, documented impact assessment is also professionally unacceptable. This approach lacks the rigor required to identify systemic risks. Anecdotal feedback may not uncover subtle but critical compliance issues that could affect a broader customer base or violate specific regulatory requirements. It bypasses the structured due diligence necessary to ensure that customer data is handled responsibly and in accordance with all applicable laws. Professional reasoning. Professionals in this field should adopt a structured decision-making process that begins with understanding the business objective of any new feature. This should be immediately followed by a risk assessment that explicitly includes regulatory and compliance considerations. Engaging stakeholders from legal, compliance, security, and operations early in the process is crucial. A documented impact assessment, covering technical, operational, and regulatory aspects, should be a mandatory gate before any feature is approved for wider deployment. This framework ensures that innovation is pursued responsibly, with a clear understanding of and mitigation plan for potential risks, thereby upholding professional integrity and safeguarding customer interests. Question 14. Cost-benefit analysis shows that a new Cisco UX feature offering real-time sentiment analysis of customer interactions could significantly improve agent coaching and customer satisfaction scores. However, the feature's underlying technology processes and stores granular interaction data, including voice recordings and chat transcripts, for an extended period to refine its algorithms. Given the U.S. regulatory landscape concerning data privacy and security, what is the most prudent approach to evaluating and implementing this feature? Option A. Rely on the vendor's assurances that the feature is compliant with general data protection principles and proceed with implementation, assuming no specific U.S. federal regulations will be violated. Option B. Implement the feature with minimal configuration changes, focusing only on the technical integration and operational aspects, and deferring any detailed review of data handling practices to a later stage. Option C. Conduct a comprehensive data privacy and security impact assessment to identify potential regulatory risks and implement necessary controls before deployment, ensuring compliance with relevant U.S. federal laws and minimizing data exposure. Option D. Deploy the feature immediately to capitalize on the anticipated customer satisfaction improvements and address any potential data privacy concerns reactively as they arise. The correct answer is C. Conduct a comprehensive data privacy and security impact assessment to identify potential regulatory risks and implement necessary controls before deployment, ensuring compliance with relevant U.S. federal laws and minimizing data exposure. Explanation. This scenario presents a common challenge in contact center operations, balancing the desire for enhanced customer experience with the practicalities of resource allocation and regulatory compliance. The professional challenge lies in interpreting the implications of a new feature, specifically its potential impact on data privacy and security, within the context of the Cisco Unified Contact Center Enterprise (UCS) environment. The chosen regulatory framework for this exam is U.S. federal regulations pertaining to data privacy and consumer protection, as these are directly relevant to the implementation and support of enterprise contact center solutions in the United States. The correct approach prioritizes a thorough understanding of the feature's data handling mechanisms and their alignment with relevant U.S. regulations, such as the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, HIPAA, if protected health information is involved, or the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act, COPPA, if applicable. It emphasizes a proactive risk assessment and the implementation of appropriate security controls and data minimization practices. This aligns with best professional practice by ensuring that the deployment of new technology does not inadvertently lead to regulatory violations, reputational damage, or loss of customer trust. It demonstrates a commitment to responsible technology adoption and adherence to legal and ethical obligations. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on the perceived customer experience benefits without a corresponding assessment of data privacy implications would be professionally unacceptable. This failure to consider data privacy risks could lead to violations of U.S. federal data protection laws, resulting in significant fines, legal action, and damage to the organization's reputation. For instance, if the feature inadvertently collects or retains personally identifiable information, PI, beyond what is necessary for its stated purpose, it could contravene principles of data minimization and purpose limitation, which are foundational to many U.S. privacy regulations. Another incorrect approach might involve implementing the feature without adequate security measures, increasing the risk of data breaches, which would violate data security requirements mandated by various U.S. laws. Professionals should adopt a decision-making framework that integrates technical feasibility, business objectives, and regulatory compliance from the outset. This involves a multidisciplinary approach, engaging legal counsel, compliance officers, and security experts alongside technical teams. A structured risk assessment process, including data flow mapping and privacy impact assessments, should be a mandatory step before deploying any new feature that interacts with customer data. The principle of privacy by design should guide all implementation decisions. Question 15. The efficiency study reveals that customer calls are frequently being misrouted, leading to extended wait times and agent dissatisfaction due to a lack of specialized skills for incoming inquiries. The current UX configuration relies on a static, queue-based routing method that does not dynamically adapt to agent availability or the complexity of customer needs. Considering the need to improve first call resolution and customer satisfaction, which of the following strategies best addresses this challenge within the UX framework? Option A. Increase the number of agents across all skill groups to absorb the higher volume of misrouted calls and reduce overall queue lengths. Option B. Implement a dynamic routing strategy that prioritizes agent skill groups, leverages intelligent queuing based on customer segment and inquiry type, and incorporates real-time agent status monitoring for optimal call distribution. Option C. Reconfigure the UX system to a simple first-in, first-out FIFO queue for all incoming calls, regardless of agent specialization or customer need. Option D. Manually adjust call routing priorities on an ad hoc basis by directly manipulating network traffic shaping parameters outside of the UX scripting environment. The correct answer is B. Implement a dynamic routing strategy that prioritizes agent skill groups, leverages intelligent queuing based on customer segment and inquiry type, and incorporates real-time agent status monitoring for optimal call distribution. Explanation. The efficiency study reveals a significant bottleneck in call routing for a large enterprise contact center environment utilizing Cisco Unified Contact Center Enterprise (UCS). The challenge lies in ensuring that customer calls are directed to the most appropriate agent based on a complex set of criteria, including agent skill, availability, and customer segment, while adhering to service-level agreements, SLAs, and maintaining data privacy. This scenario is professionally challenging because misconfiguration can lead to customer dissatisfaction, lost revenue, and potential regulatory noncompliance if sensitive customer data is mishandled or if SLAs are consistently missed. The need for a robust and adaptable routing strategy is paramount. The correct approach involves a meticulous review and refinement of the existing routing scripts and policies within UX. This includes leveraging the full capabilities of UX routing engine, such as script editor and call routing functionality, to implement a dynamic routing strategy. This strategy should prioritize agent skill-based routing, incorporate intelligent queuing mechanisms, and allow for real-time adjustments based on call volume and agent status. Furthermore, it must ensure that all routing decisions are logged and auditable to demonstrate compliance with any relevant data handling and service delivery regulations. This represents best professional practice by directly addressing the identified efficiency issue through a technically sound and compliant solution, maximizing customer experience and operational effectiveness. An incorrect approach would be to solely focus on increasing agent headcount without addressing the underlying routing inefficiencies. This fails to acknowledge the root cause of the bottleneck and represents a costly, inefficient solution that does not improve the quality of service or data handling. It also risks overwhelming agents with poorly routed calls, leading to burnout and further service degradation. Another incorrect approach would be to implement a simplistic, first-come, first-served routing mechanism. This disregards the critical need for skill-based routing and intelligent queuing, leading to calls being misdirected to agents lacking the necessary expertise. This not only frustrates customers, but also increases average handle times and can lead to missed SLAs, potentially violating service delivery commitments. A third incorrect approach would be to bypass established UX configuration protocols and directly modify system databases or underlying network configurations to force call routing. This is a highly risky and unprofessional practice that can lead to system instability, data corruption, and severe security vulnerabilities. It also bypasses all audit trails and change management processes, making it impossible to troubleshoot issues or demonstrate compliance. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a systematic analysis of the problem, identification of root causes, exploration of solutions within the UX framework, and a thorough understanding of relevant service-level agreements and data privacy regulations. Prioritizing solutions that leverage the platform's intended functionality, ensure auditability, and demonstrably improve customer experience and operational efficiency is key. Question 16. Regulatory review indicates that the implementation of a new Cisco Unified Contact Center Enterprise (CCE) feature designed to provide real-time sentiment analysis of customer interactions for agent coaching purposes may involve the processing of sensitive personal data. The organization must ensure compliance with all relevant data protection regulations. Which of the following approaches best aligns with regulatory requirements for implementing such a feature? Option A. Implement the sentiment analysis feature immediately and address any potential privacy concerns that arise after deployment through ad hoc adjustments to security configurations. Option B. Deploy the sentiment analysis feature after obtaining a general sign-off from the legal department, without a specific assessment of the feature's data processing activities. Option C. Proceed with the deployment of the sentiment analysis feature, relying on existing general IT security policies, and assuming they adequately cover the privacy implications of real-time data processing. Option D. Conduct a comprehensive data protection impact assessment, DPIA, to identify and mitigate potential privacy risks associated with the sentiment analysis feature before deployment, documenting all findings and mitigation strategies. The correct answer is D. Conduct a comprehensive data protection impact assessment, DPIA, to identify and mitigate potential privacy risks associated with the sentiment analysis feature before deployment, documenting all findings and mitigation strategies. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent tension between implementing advanced contact center features for enhanced customer experience and adhering to strict data privacy regulations. The need to personalize interactions, a core benefit of CCE, often involves processing sensitive customer information. The challenge lies in balancing the business imperative for effective customer engagement with the legal and ethical obligation to protect customer data. Careful judgment is required to ensure that all implemented solutions are not only technically sound, but also fully compliant with the specified regulatory framework. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a proactive, risk-based methodology for data handling. By conducting a thorough data protection impact assessment, DPIA, before deployment, the team demonstrates a commitment to identifying and mitigating potential privacy risks. This aligns directly with the principles of data minimization and privacy by design, which are fundamental to many data protection regulations. Documenting these assessments and mitigation strategies provides an auditable trail, essential for demonstrating compliance to regulatory bodies and for internal governance. This approach ensures that customer privacy is considered at the outset, rather than as an afterthought, thereby minimizing the likelihood of breaches and subsequent regulatory penalties. An incorrect approach that involves deploying the feature without a formal privacy assessment fails to uphold the principle of accountability. Regulatory frameworks often mandate that organizations actively demonstrate compliance, and the absence of a DPIA means there is no documented evidence of risk consideration. This can lead to significant regulatory penalties and reputational damage if a data breach occurs. Another incorrect approach, which relies solely on general IT security measures without specific consideration for the PII being processed by the CCE, is insufficient. While general security is important, it does not address the specific risks associated with the type and volume of personal data handled by a contact center, such as call recordings, chat transcripts, and customer history. This oversight can result in noncompliance with regulations that require tailored data protection measures based on the sensitivity of the data. Finally, an approach that assumes existing privacy policies are adequate without a specific review for the new CCE functionality overlooks the fact that new technologies and data processing activities may introduce novel privacy risks that existing policies may not adequately cover. Professional reasoning in such situations should follow a structured decision-making process. 1. Understand the regulatory landscape. Clearly identify all applicable data protection laws and guidelines. 2. Assess the impact. Evaluate how the proposed technology or feature will process personal data, considering the type, volume, and sensitivity. 3. Identify risks. Proactively identify potential privacy risks and vulnerabilities. 4. Implement controls. Design and implement appropriate technical and organizational measures to mitigate identified risks. 5. Document and review. Maintain thorough documentation of all assessments, decisions, and controls, and establish a process for regular review and updates. Question 17. Market research demonstrates that customers highly value personalized interactions within contact centers, leading to increased satisfaction and loyalty. However, implementing such personalization often requires the collection and analysis of customer interaction data, which may include sensitive information. Considering the regulatory framework for data privacy in the United States, which approach best balances the desire for enhanced customer experience with the imperative of protecting customer data. Option A. Collect and analyze all available customer interaction data, including voice recordings and chat logs, to identify patterns for personalization, assuming that the act of contacting the company implies consent for all data usage. Option B. Proactively inform customers about the types of interaction data that may be collected for personalization, clearly explain the benefits of such personalization, and obtain explicit consent before collecting and using this data for purposes beyond core service delivery, while implementing robust security measures to protect the collected data. Option C. Utilize anonymized customer interaction data for personalization, relying on the anonymization process to ensure privacy without needing to obtain specific consent for personalization purposes. Option D. Implement a strict policy of not collecting any customer interaction data beyond what is absolutely necessary for immediate call resolution, thereby eliminating any potential privacy risks associated with personalization. The correct answer is B. Proactively inform customers about the types of interaction data that may be collected for personalization, clearly explain the benefits of such personalization, and obtain explicit consent before collecting and using this data for purposes beyond core service delivery, while implementing robust security measures to protect the collected data. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge rooted in the inherent tension between optimizing customer experience and adhering to data privacy regulations. The need to personalize interactions, a key driver of customer satisfaction and loyalty, must be balanced against the legal and ethical obligations to protect sensitive customer information. The complexity arises from identifying what constitutes sensitive data in the context of contact center interactions, how consent is obtained and managed, and the potential for misuse or unauthorized access. A failure to navigate this balance can lead to significant reputational damage, regulatory penalties, and erosion of customer trust. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a proactive and transparent data handling strategy that prioritizes customer consent and minimizes data collection to what is strictly necessary for service delivery. This aligns with the principles of data minimization and purpose limitation, fundamental to many data privacy frameworks. By clearly defining what data is collected, why it is collected, and how it will be used, and by obtaining explicit consent for any use beyond core service provision, the organization demonstrates a commitment to customer privacy. Implementing robust security measures to protect this data further reinforces this commitment. This approach not only ensures compliance but also builds trust, which is a critical differentiator in the competitive contact center landscape. Incorrect approach is analysis. Collecting and analyzing all available customer interaction data without explicit consent for personalization purposes is a direct violation of data privacy principles. This approach assumes a broad right to use customer data, disregarding the need for informed consent, particularly for sensitive information. Such actions can lead to regulatory penalties for unauthorized data processing and breaches of trust. Implementing a blanket policy of not collecting any customer interaction data for personalization, even when consent is offered and data is anonymized, is also professionally suboptimal. While it avoids privacy risks, it fails to leverage opportunities to improve customer experience and operational efficiency, potentially leading to a less competitive service offering. This approach misses the opportunity to provide value to customers through tailored interactions, which is a core expectation in modern customer service. Using anonymized data for personalization without considering the potential for re-identification, even if unintentional, poses a risk. While anonymization is a valuable technique, its effectiveness can be compromised, and relying solely on it without a comprehensive data governance framework can still lead to privacy concerns if re-identification becomes possible. This approach lacks the necessary diligence in ensuring true data de-identification. Professional reasoning. Professionals in this field must adopt a risk-based approach to data management. This involves understanding the specific data privacy regulations applicable to their operating jurisdiction and implementing policies and procedures that align with those requirements. A key element of this process is conducting thorough data privacy impact assessments to identify potential risks associated with data collection, processing, and storage. Furthermore, fostering a culture of privacy awareness among all contact center staff through regular training is essential. When in doubt about the permissibility of a data handling practice, the default should always be to err on the side of caution and seek legal or compliance guidance. Question 18. The assessment process reveals that the contact center is experiencing challenges in balancing the need for comprehensive call recording for quality assurance and training purposes with the stringent requirements of customer data privacy regulations. The current implementation logs all call details, including sensitive customer information, without granular access controls or data masking capabilities for non-essential personnel. What is the most appropriate strategy to address this situation while ensuring compliance and operational effectiveness? Option A. Implement a tiered access control system for call recordings and associated metadata, coupled with data masking or anonymization techniques for sensitive fields that are not required for specific roles, and establish strict data retention policies aligned with regulatory requirements. Option B. Implement a policy that relies entirely on individual agent discretion to handle sensitive customer information appropriately during recorded calls, without any technical controls or system-level data protection measures. Option C. Disable call recording entirely for all interactions to eliminate any potential privacy risks and rely solely on agent self-reporting for quality assurance. Option D. Continue with the current practice of logging all call details without modification, assuming that the existing security measures are sufficient to protect the data. The correct answer is A. Implement a tiered access control system for call recordings and associated metadata, coupled with data masking or anonymization techniques for sensitive fields that are not required for specific roles, and establish strict data retention policies aligned with regulatory requirements. Explanation. The assessment process reveals a common challenge in contact center deployments, ensuring compliance with data privacy regulations while optimizing system performance. Specifically, the scenario involves handling sensitive customer information within the Cisco Unified Contact Center Enterprise (UCS) environment. The professional challenge lies in balancing the need for detailed call recording and logging for quality assurance, training, and dispute resolution against the strict requirements of data privacy laws, such as those governing personally identifiable information, PI, and protected health information, FI, if applicable to the contact center's domain. Mismanagement of this data can lead to significant legal penalties, reputational damage, and loss of customer trust. The correct approach prioritizes data minimization and secure handling of sensitive information, aligning with the principles of data privacy by design and by default. This involves implementing granular access controls, employing data masking or anonymization techniques where appropriate for non-essential personnel, and ensuring that data retention policies are strictly adhered to. This approach represents best professional practice because it proactively mitigates risks associated with data breaches and non-compliance. It demonstrates a commitment to customer privacy, which is a fundamental ethical and legal obligation. By embedding privacy considerations into the system's architecture and operational procedures, the organization builds a more robust and trustworthy contact center. An incorrect approach that involves recording and storing all customer interactions without any form of anonymization or strict access control, even for agents who do not require access to sensitive details for their role, represents a significant regulatory and ethical failure. This practice violates the principle of data minimization, as it collects and retains more data than is necessary for the stated business purposes. It also increases the attack surface for potential data breaches, exposing sensitive customer information to unauthorized access. Furthermore, it may contravene specific provisions within data privacy frameworks that mandate the protection of PII and require consent for data collection and processing. Another incorrect approach, which is to disable call recording entirely to avoid privacy concerns, is also professionally unacceptable. While it addresses the immediate privacy risk, it fails to meet legitimate business needs such as quality assurance, agent training, and dispute resolution. This can lead to a decline in service quality, increased customer dissatisfaction, and an inability to effectively manage operational performance. It demonstrates a lack of understanding of how to balance compliance with operational requirements. A third incorrect approach, which is to rely solely on agent discretion to handle sensitive data appropriately without technical safeguards or clear policies, is a recipe for disaster. Human error is a significant factor in data breaches. Relying on individual judgment without system-level controls and documented procedures is not a sustainable or compliant strategy. It fails to provide the necessary oversight and accountability required by data privacy regulations and ethical best practices. The professional reasoning process for similar situations should involve a thorough risk assessment, understanding the specific data privacy regulations applicable to the organization's operating jurisdiction, and consulting with legal and compliance teams. The implementation should follow a layered security and privacy approach, incorporating technical controls, robust policies, and ongoing training. Decision-making should be guided by the principle of privacy by design, ensuring that privacy considerations are integrated from the initial stages of system design and implementation, rather than being an afterthought. Question 19. Implementation of Cisco Unified Contact Center Enterprise, UCS, for a U.S.-based financial services organization handling sensitive customer personally identifiable information, PI, and financial transaction data requires careful consideration of data security and privacy. The project team is under pressure to deploy the solution rapidly to meet business demands. Which approach best ensures compliance with relevant U.S. data protection regulations and professional ethical standards? Option A. Conduct a comprehensive data privacy impact assessment to identify all sensitive data types, map data flows within UCS, and implement granular security controls, including encryption for data in transit and at rest, role-based access controls, and regular security audits, aligning with U.S. data protection laws. Option B. Prioritize rapid deployment by enabling core UCS functionalities with minimal security configuration, relying on network-level security to protect customer data, and deferring detailed data privacy reviews until after the initial go-live. Option C. Deploy UCS with a focus on agent efficiency and customer experience features, implementing only basic security measures, and plan to address any specific data privacy concerns raised by compliance officers on an ad hoc basis. Option D. Implement UCS with standard security settings, assuming that Cisco's default configurations are sufficient for regulatory compliance, and focus primarily on call routing and agent functionality. The correct answer is B. Prioritize rapid deployment by enabling core UCS functionalities with minimal security configuration, relying on network-level security to protect customer data, and deferring detailed data privacy reviews until after the initial go-live. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in contact center deployments, balancing the need for robust security and data privacy with the operational requirements of a dynamic business environment. The challenge lies in interpreting and applying the relevant U.S. regulations, specifically those pertaining to customer data protection and privacy, in the context of a cloud-based contact center solution. The organization must ensure that its implementation of Cisco Unified Contact Center Enterprise, UCS, adheres to these regulations without unduly hindering its ability to serve customers effectively. The pressure to deploy quickly can lead to shortcuts that compromise compliance, making careful judgment and a thorough understanding of regulatory obligations paramount. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a comprehensive risk assessment and the implementation of security controls that are aligned with U.S. data privacy regulations, such as HIPAA, if handling protected health information, or general data protection principles applicable to customer PII. This includes encrypting sensitive data both in transit and at rest, implementing robust access controls based on the principle of least privilege, and ensuring that any third-party integrations or cloud services used by UX also meet these stringent security and privacy standards. Regular security audits and a clear incident response plan are also critical components. This approach represents best professional practice because it proactively addresses regulatory requirements, minimizes the risk of data breaches and associated penalties, and builds customer trust by demonstrating a commitment to data protection. It aligns with the spirit and letter of U.S. data privacy laws by prioritizing the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of customer information. Incorrect approaches analysis. Implementing UX without a thorough review of data privacy implications and without specific security controls for sensitive customer data is a significant regulatory failure. This approach risks violating U.S. data privacy laws by exposing customer information to unauthorized access or disclosure. It demonstrates a lack of due diligence and a failure to uphold the organization's responsibility to protect customer data. Deploying UX with default security settings and assuming they are sufficient for regulatory compliance is another critical failure. Default configurations often do not meet the specific heightened security requirements mandated by U.S. regulations for sensitive customer data. This oversight can lead to vulnerabilities that are easily exploited, resulting in data breaches and noncompliance. Focusing solely on the technical implementation of UX features without considering the broader regulatory landscape and the specific types of customer data being handled is also professionally unacceptable. This narrow focus neglects the overarching legal and ethical obligations related to data privacy, potentially leading to the collection, storage, or transmission of data in a manner that contravenes U.S. laws. Professional reasoning. Professionals tasked with implementing UX must adopt a risk-based approach that integrates security and compliance from the outset. This involves understanding the specific types of customer data that will be processed, identifying the relevant U.S. regulatory frameworks, e.g., HIPAA, PCI DSS, state-specific privacy laws, and designing security controls that directly address these requirements. A key decision-making process involves conducting a data protection impact assessment, DPIA, or a similar risk evaluation to identify potential privacy risks and define mitigation strategies. Collaboration with legal and compliance teams is essential to ensure that technical decisions align with regulatory obligations. Furthermore, continuous monitoring, regular security assessments, and a proactive approach to patching and updating the UX environment are vital for maintaining compliance and protecting sensitive customer information. Question 20. Risk assessment procedures indicate that a planned enhancement to the Cisco Unified Contact Center enterprise environment, designed to provide real-time sentiment analysis of customer interactions, may involve the processing of sensitive personal data. The organization operates within a jurisdiction with stringent data privacy laws that require explicit consent for the collection and analysis of such data. The project team is eager to deploy this feature to improve customer service metrics. Which of the following approaches best aligns with regulatory compliance and professional best practices for implementing this new functionality? Option A. Proceed with the implementation of the sentiment analysis feature, assuming that general terms of service cover data processing and address any potential compliance issues post-deployment. Option B. Prioritize the technical implementation of the sentiment analysis feature to demonstrate rapid progress, and then seek legal counsel to retroactively validate the data processing activities. Option C. Conduct a comprehensive review of all applicable data privacy laws and guidelines. Engage legal and compliance teams to define consent mechanisms and data handling protocols, and then design and implement the sentiment analysis feature to meet these requirements. Option D. Implement the sentiment analysis feature with anonymized data only, without verifying if the anonymization process fully complies with the specific requirements of the jurisdiction's data privacy laws. The correct answer is A. Proceed with the implementation of the sentiment analysis feature, assuming that general terms of service cover data processing and address any potential compliance issues post-deployment. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent tension between maintaining service availability and adhering to data privacy regulations when implementing a new feature in a Cisco Unified Contact Center Enterprise (UCS) environment. The need to ensure that customer interactions are handled efficiently and effectively, as mandated by business objectives, must be balanced against the strict requirements for data protection and consent management. The complexity arises from the integration of new technologies and their potential impact on existing data handling processes. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a thorough understanding of the regulatory landscape before proceeding with implementation. Specifically, it involves a detailed review of relevant data privacy laws and guidelines applicable to the contact center's operational jurisdiction. This proactive stance ensures that the new feature is designed and deployed in a manner that is compliant from the outset, minimizing the risk of regulatory penalties, reputational damage, and loss of customer trust. It demonstrates a commitment to responsible data stewardship and ethical business conduct. An incorrect approach that involves proceeding with implementation without a comprehensive regulatory review fails to meet professional standards. This oversight can lead to significant regulatory or ethical failures. For instance, it might result in the inadvertent collection or processing of sensitive customer data without proper consent, violating data privacy principles. It could also lead to noncompliance with data retention policies or inadequate security measures for stored data, exposing the organization to breaches and legal repercussions. Such an approach neglects the fundamental duty of care to protect customer information and uphold legal obligations. Another incorrect approach, which focuses solely on technical feasibility and performance metrics without considering the regulatory implications, is equally problematic. This narrow focus can lead to the implementation of features that, while technically sound, inadvertently create compliance gaps. For example, a feature designed for enhanced analytics might collect personally identifiable information, PI, in a way that is not permitted by law or without the necessary consent mechanisms. This demonstrates a lack of holistic risk management and a failure to integrate compliance into the design and deployment lifecycle. The professional reasoning process for similar situations should involve a multidisciplinary approach. Before any technical implementation, a thorough risk assessment should be conducted, explicitly including a review of all applicable legal and regulatory requirements. This assessment should involve stakeholders from IT, legal, compliance, and business operations. The design phase should then incorporate compliance controls directly into the solution architecture. Testing should include validation of these compliance controls. Finally, ongoing monitoring and auditing are essential to ensure continued adherence to regulations.